I want to preface my next question, which is about parental expectations, because I know that's something you wanted to shed some light on, with an example. So, and you're the expert, so feel free to correct me if I'm wrong. So let's say something common in our community, in the Indian community, would be career paths. So maybe your parents actively discourage your choice in career, and it comes from a place of love that is defined as security. I want my child to have job security, income security. This is quite common in the Indian diaspora, I would say, living in the Western world, especially with the experience of our parents' generation being immigrants, comes that survival mindset. So, from the parents' perspective, them discouraging what the child wants and encouraging what they themselves want for the child is believed to be in the child's best interest out of protection. That's one perspective. From the child's perspective, especially when they're very, very young, they may not even be able to comprehend that because it's too complex. So they may instead internalize, mom and dad don't support me, mom and dad don't love me, there must be something wrong with me. And these two perspectives happen at the same time and cause a rift in a parent-child relationship because they're opposite. Is that
Right.
explanation fair to say?
Yes, yes. And again, I think that a child growing up is always going to seek their parents for validation, for support, for direction, right? And I think one of the differences that happens in our communities, especially just keeping in the back of our mind that our parents who have been maybe immigrants to the country have gone through their own traumatic experiences. Immigration can be a traumatic experience where they have lost culture, networks, family ties, and come to a new land to make it, right? And when you go through that, there is this piece that really drives you about doing than being, right? So it's so that belief that the generation that arrives here brings with them develops their core beliefs about how life should be. So that absolute truth about how life should be to be successful is a core belief that tends to guide their parenting journey of a child from the best interest in mind. And well, it is well intended, it somewhere along the way can get in the way of understanding and assessing child's unique strengths and needs, right? So there is a bit of a kerfuffle that happens between that parent-child dynamic, while the child who has been born in Canada and is a part of the new environment and also reconciles with a home environment, home cultures and customs, goes into the new environment and has a very different experience than their parents who had their primary education in India or came from their own experiences. So there is that imposing happening, thinking about the child's best interest in mind, and not being able to incorporate child's needs or their exposure in this place. So there's a bit of a distance, a gap that grows unknowingly, and sometimes we just don't cross each other, right? So our parents have their expectations, and the young person is finding their place, and we don't meet, right? And that distance leads to the disconnect in that experience.
So a difference in culture. And then would you also say that what you just defined is intergenerational trauma?
Absolutely, absolutely. Our biological signatures carry through our families, right? And I have to say that our parents do a great job in leaving that behind and coming because of the resilience that develops in being in a new place and working their way through to making it in the new land and making it their own, right? So there is a sense of loss that might not be visible, but happens. I know that with my own journey of growing up in India and coming to Canada in adult years, every time Diwali comes around or Holi comes around, or when I don't have an opportunity to celebrate the way I used to in India, there is some sort of a sadness that comes with that experience. While I have developed a friend group here and a beautiful community that supports me, and my children are growing up here, so this is their familiar ground. There is, and I choose to be a part of uh, embracing both cultures, both experiences. There is a sense of sadness and loss that comes with it, and in acknowledging that, I can move forward. than leaving it behind, right? So sometimes those experiences can lead to those challenges in not being able to validate or see through the young person's experience, right? And again, core beliefs play a great role in that, where, growing up, a lot of our families were conditioned to, be certain professionals. And if you were not that professional, then that wasn't okay. In my own story, when I was growing up, my father really wanted for me to become a doctor, I was fortunate enough that I did well academically. And when I told him that I was going to study social work, it was really hard for him. And he did everything possible to take me to, our family friends that were in positions of professional positions that were the professions in the day and the time, to convince me otherwise. Right. So those were, I can chuckle about that now because I know how proud my father feels today about my own experiences. However, that was a really difficult place for him. And when I think back, it was informed by his own journey of survival growing up. He grew up and he was, went through significant trauma of losing his father to riots during the partition. And so growing up independently, that informs your core belief about survival and what is best in life. So that really has an influence. So I think all these factors are to be taken into account as parents are working in parenting their children, and developing a better awareness of their needs, in addition to their own experiences of working through their challenges.
It's difficult as a child to understand that. And then when you get older, you realize, okay, so my parents didn't even have that parenting themselves. How could you even pass on something you're not familiar with? So right. My question is, how would you decipher as parental expectations that cross the line from healthy to unhealthy?
I think it's a really blurry line, right? First and foremost, because, a lot of our parenting, a lot of our communication with our children is influenced by so many factors: culture, norms, our core beliefs, our religious beliefs. And there is also this hierarchy in our culture about family ties, right? And how that transition through families. So I think there isn't a simple answer to the question. And as I'm living through my own life experiences, I'm learning as I go as well. But what I can say is that when it crosses a line would be when we impose our expectations and beliefs on our children without the opportunity to give our children the opportunity to be heard, right? So a child, regardless of their age, is capable of experiences, of emotions, and capable of communicating those experiences. And our role as parents becomes to be able to give it an active listening ear and understand those experiences for what it is, right? So because we have had certain experiences in our life doesn't necessarily mean that those are the experiences that will guide our children's journey as well, right? That they will play an important role in influencing their journey. And I think incorporating and validating our children's experiences that are unique to them, because we may not have those experiences, especially if we haven't gone to school here, right? If parents haven't gone to school here, then it is very difficult to understand what it means to fit into a diverse community. Or when, I remember a story where one of a young client of mine said to me, I was really bullied at school for the color of my skin. And when I went to told my dad said, man up and be brave, right? Stand up to them, right? Which makes sense. And a father is really trying to be helpful to the child. However, it is very difficult when you don't see the color of your skin and others do, and equipping them with resources and supports would be important. So I think those are certain things that cross the line, I would say.
another episode of the Speak Real podcast, sharing one-on-one conversations. We believe that storytelling is the best way to empower youth and give them the platform to find their voices.
Presented by YouthSpeak. Youth experience, youth voice, youth empowered.